let's go to Luke 23. And the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. And they began to accuse him, saying, We found this fellow perverting the nation. In other words, he is saying, he's telling people that, the truth. It's perverting them. They're taking away what we want and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar. Don't pay your taxes. It's a fraud. Saying that he himself is king, is Christ the King. And Pilate asked him, saying, Art thou the King of the Jews? And he answered him and said, Thou sayest it. Then Pilate, to the chief priest and to the people, I find no fault in this man. Why didn't Pilate find fault in him? Because Pilate knew he was telling the truth. That, hey, don't pay your taxes. It's a fraud. They're stealing off of you. And they were the more furious, saying, He strengthened up the people, teaching throughout all the Jewry, beginning with the Galilee to this place. And Pilate heard of the Galilee. He asked whether the man were a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, now jurisdiction, if you believe it or not, is a government word. It is a government word. Let's look it up in the dictionary. Jurisdiction is the administrating of justice, authority to hear and decide cases, authority or power in general, the range of authority, jurisdictional. So, there you have it. Now, he sent him to Herod, who he himself also was at Jerusalem at that time. And when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceedingly glad, for he was delirious to see him of a long season, because he had heard many things of him. And he hoped to have seen some miracles done by him. He was wanting to make him fun of. And this is the way I see it. And he questioned with him in many words, but he answered him nothing. Why did Jesus not say anything? Because he knew that if he opened up his mouth, that they would use everything against him. Remember, we're talking about the government here. The government will use everything you say against you. It doesn't matter if you say, well, I know nothing about it. They'll find a way to turn it against you. And the chief priest and the scribes stood and vehemently accused him. They accused him whether he opened his mouth or not. And believe it or not, if you look at people now in jail, even if they don't open their mouth, they are getting put in there, even though they didn't open their mouth. When it comes to the government, they're always right. It doesn't matter. And Herod, with his men of war, set him at naught. Now, I want you to notice, Herod had a lot of men of war. Who is that? The police. The police are men of war. Check it out on YouTube. You'll see what I'm talking about. And mocking him. And arraying him in a joyous robe. And set him again into Pilate. And the same day, Pilate and Herod were made friends together. For before they were an enemy between themselves. See, even trying to get Christ to go on the cross, this right here, Neither one of them could make up their mind what we to do with him. We don't want to crucify him. Herod here, they made friends together because they seen they were eye to eye together, and that it shouldn't be done. And Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests and the rulers of the people, said unto them, Ye have brought this man unto me as one that precedeth the people. And behold, I have examined him before you, have found no fault in this man, touching those things whereof you accuse him. You accuse him of all this, and I don't see it. It's all a lie. No, nor yet Herod. Herod didn't see anything against him. So, why? For I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him. He hasn't done anything to be crucified over. It's the government saying, hey, we want him gone because he's out there teaching the truth. He's telling everybody the truth, and we don't want him around us. I will therefore chastise him and release him. Look, I'm just going to bust his butt and go on. What we would call today probably would be probation. Give us your money. For of necessity, he must release one unto them at the feast. And they cried out all at once, saying, Away with this man, and release unto us Barabbas. Now, Barabbas, he was a rapist, a thief, all kinds of stuff. They had rather have the darkest of darkest, the killer, the Satan, than they would to have Christ. And I can't understand that. Who for a certain session made in the city, and for murder was cast into prison. And Pilate, therefore, willing to release Jesus, spoke again unto them. He's asking his people again, Are you sure this is what you want? But they cried, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. And he said unto them the third time, Why? What evil has he done? I found no cause of death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go. And they were incensed with a loud voice, requiring that he might be crucified, and the voice of them of the chief priests prevailing. The chief priest is might as well say the judge. And they are saying, well, we want him dead. We don't want him out here saying that paying taxes. I mean, you go and you tell somebody, look, paying your taxes, they're stealing your money. They're taking your tax dollars and they're funding these wars over here to kill people that have nothing to do with nothing. They're killing people like you that just wants to live life and live with their family and love one another. But no, they don't want it. They'd rather pay their taxes and fund these wars and stuff. And Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they required. And he released unto him that for a session and a murderer was cast into prison, whom they had desired. But he delivered Jesus to their will. He had to. The people pushed him into it. I don't blame Pilate. Christ knew that this was going to happen, and so he went on with it. 26. And as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simeon, a Chaldean, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. And there followed him a great company of people, and of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. These women cried over him. They knew that it was wrong. I mean, You see people go to jail. You see people killed on a daily basis, every day, that shouldn't be. And yes, even your words kill a person. People's words, the English language is a lot of, you could have one word and it could mean 2 or 3 different definitions. I just read off jurisdiction. There was 3 right there. But Jesus, turning unto them, saying, Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourself and for your children. Because he knew what the children was going to be going through, what we are going through today. For behold, the days are coming, in which they shall say, Blessed are the barren, and the womb that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck. They're going to say, man, it's great that you can't have any children because of the things that are coming upon this world. Look at it now. There's women that want to have children, can't have children. But there's a lot of them that can't have children. What are they doing? Going right straight to the abortion clinic. Wrong. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and the hills cover us. For if they do these things in a green tree, what shall be done in the dry? And there were also 2 other malefactors led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, where they crucified him, and the malefactors, one on the right and the other on the left. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. And they parted his garment and cast lots. And the people stood beholding, and the rulers also with them derided him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself, if he be Christ, the chosen of God. He is chosen, but he didn't do it because he knew that if he went ahead and got crucified and shed off his blood, that hopefully you would come to him and you would be set free. I thank God he did it, but it is so wrong the way that it went about. And the soldiers also mocked him, come to him, and offered him vinegar. Now this ain't the same type of vinegar. This was a stuff that was put together to numb your whole body to where you couldn't feel the pain. Because when you get crucified, you got your arms up here, and your whole weight is going down, and it's where you can't breathe. It crushes your lungs, and it puts your heart and your whole body, it puts it all in a strain. And saying, If thou be the King of the Jews, save thyself. And a superscription also was written over him in letters of Greek and Latin and Hebrew. This is the King of the Jews. And one of the malefactors which were hanged wailed on him, saying, If thou be Christ, save thyself and us. But the others answered, rebuking him, saying, Doest thou not fear God, seeing thou art in the same condition? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man had done nothing amiss. This one says, look, he ain't done nothing wrong. We did. We deserve what we got. But this man does not deserve what he's getting. How about you? Would you deserve to be put in a cross? With everything that you are, yes, you would. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. That is not saying that when Jesus died, he went straight to heaven. He did not. When he went to paradise, he grabbed this character here and took him with him. Because remember, he spent 3 days in hell. And he raised a lot of people in that time. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. The temple veil rent because, look, God is no more behind that veil than anything else. There's nothing back there. Never was. You cannot put God in a building. I think that I cannot prove it, but I would love to be able to prove it, that Solomon's temple was not for the God that we know, that it was for the other God. I cannot prove it, but somewhere down in my spirit tells me that this temple, at the first it could have been, but then they kicked God out of it and they put this false God in there. And the whole time they've had the false God in there for years, before Jesus even showed up on the scene. I know it's here somewhere, but I have not found it. And when I do, believe you me, you're going to hear it. And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, unto thy hands I commit my spirit. And heaven said thus, he gave up the ghost. Or he gave up his spirit, gave it back to the Father. And the Father put him down in the pits of hell to save those people. Now when the centurion saw that was done, he glorified God, saying, Certainly this was a righteous man. And all the people that came together to that sight, behold the things which were done, smite their breast and return. And all his acquaintances and the women that followed him from Galilee stood afar off, beholding these things. And behold, there was a man named Joseph, a counselor, and he was a good man and a just. The same had not considered to the counsel and the deeds of them. He was an Arimathea, and the city of the Jews, whom also himself wanted for the kingdom of God. In other words, this was a just man, a man that feared God, that loved God, and knew who Jesus was. This man went into Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. And he took it down and wrapped it in linen and laid it in a sculpture that was hewn in stone, wherein never man before was laid. And that day was the preparation of the Sabbath drew on. And the women also, which came with him from Galilee, followed after and beheld the sculpture, the tomb, and how his body was laid. And they returned and prepared spices and ointments, and rested the Sabbath day according to the commandment. So they kept the commandments then. But things change. Now look, we know that Jesus Christ loved us, or else he would not have went through this. This does not do, words cannot do it justice. You cannot speak the words and really get an idea of what Christ went through. And there's something else too that people don't really understand and all. And most of the people, they think the cross goes like that. Believe it or not, that's not the way that the cross really was. This is what the cross looked like. That's the way the cross really looked like. And this right here is where he put his feet. His feet. And then what they would do was they would sometimes take and they would push themselves up to give their lungs a rest. And then they rest it down. So you see, it's like it was a slow, horrible death. Well, y'all, I think that if we could get people to really understand what Christ really actually did on the cross, people would be able to see it more. But the government has most definitely took it all away from us. And now we can't, it's hard to get the truth out there because the government is stopping it. Well, keep God on your mind, Jesus in your heart, and praise on your lips.